Welcome to episode 114 of Gods and Heroes of Ancient Greece. My name is MyLinda Butterworth, and today we continue with the tales of Troy and the story of the storming of Troy. While this was taking place on the slopes of Ida, the two armies had resumed the fight. Apollo breathed courage into Aeneas, son of Anchises, and Eurymachus, son of Antenor, and they drove the Achaeans back. They suffered great losses, and Neoptolemus rallied his men with almost superhuman effort. But he could not stop the Trojans until Pallas Athene herself came to his help. Now, Aphrodite also took part in the battle, for she feared the life of Aeneas, her son. Finally, she hid him in dense mist and bore him away from the battlefield. Only a few Trojans escaped death, and these retreated to their city, wounded and exhausted. Weeping women and children took their blood-stained weapons from them and loosened their heavy cuirasses, and physicians hastened to their aid. The Danai, too, were tired and weakened, for they had defeated their enemy only after a long and desperate struggle. But the next morning they woke refreshed. Leaving a guard with their wounded, they marched courageously toward the walls of Troy. They distributed their forces so that one battalion was stationed at each gate. But the Trojans resisted from every part of the wall and from every tower. The Scaean Gates bore the brunt of the attack. Sthenelus, the son of Aeneas, and Diomedes were the first to rush against it. But tireless Deiphobus and strong Polites, with many others, fended their foes off with arrows and stones, and their shields and helmets rang with the striking missiles. Neoptolemus fought at the Idaean gates. His Myrmidons were experienced in all the methods of storming a wall. On this part of the ramparts, Helenus and Agenor kindled the hearts of the Trojans and fought for their city. Those gates which led to the plain and the Argive camp had been assigned to Eurypylus and Odysseus. They attacked again and again, but Aeneas kept them at a distance by incessantly hurling great stones at them. Teucer, meanwhile, fought on the banks of the Simwas. So the fighting went on everywhere, and there was no decisive action. Finally, Odysseus had a happy thought. He had his warriors lift up their shields so that they formed a compact and vaulted roof under which the men went forward, keeping close to each other. And now the stones and arrows and javelins launched from the walls rained on the shields without wounding a single man. In this way, like a solid mass of threatening cloud, they approached the walls. The earth groaned beneath their steps. The dust whirled about their heads. And under the roof of shields their talk sounded like the buzzing of bees in a hive. The hearts of the son of Atreus brimmed with joy when they saw this unshakable procession. They urged their men forward toward all the gates and prepared to lift them from their hinges or batter them with their two-edged axes. This new invention of Odysseus seemed to assure victory. But the gods, who sided with the Trojans, put new and greater strength into the arms of Aeneas. With both hands he grasped an enormous stone and hurled it down on the roof of the shields with desperate fury. This stone caused disaster to the besiegers, and they fell like mountain goats, mowed down by a tumbling rock. But Aeneas stood on the wall, his limbs swelling with strength, and his armor flashed like lightning. Beside him was Ares, hidden in a cloud. And every time Aeneas cast a missile, the war god guided it, spreading terror and death among the Achaeans. Through it all, Aeneas kept sounding his battle cry, firing his men to action, while down below, Neoptolemus shouted at his Myrmidons to stand fast, and so they fought all day without respite. The Argives were luckier at another part of the wall, where Ajax of Locris swept the defenders down with his arrows and spears. He actually cleared a space so that Alcimedion, his comrade in arms, set up a ladder and began to climb. Trusting to his youth and courage, he held his shield over his head. But Aeneas had been watching him from far off, and just as he mounted the topmost rung, just as his first and last glance fell on the city of Troy, he was hit in the forehead by a stone, flung by a powerful hand of the son of Aeneas. The ladder broke under the impact of the falling hero. He whirled through the space like an arrow shot from the bow and died before he struck the ground. The men of Locris cried out when they saw him lying there crushed and mangled. Now Philoctetes fixed his eye on the son of Aeneas, who was raging along the wall like a wild beast. He aimed one of his inescapable arrows at him, but only scratched the leather of his shield, and instead fell Medon, who dropped from the rampart like quarry shot down by the huntsman. In return, Aeneas cast a stone at Toxocemus, the bold friend of Philoctetes, and cracked his skull. Furiously, Philoctetes looked up at his foe and exclaimed, "Aeneas, you think yourself brave when you throw down stones from your post on the tower, but any weak woman could do as well. If you are a man, come out of the gate in full armor, and measure your strength and skill, and the use of bow and lance with me, the son of Poesus." The Trojan did not stop to reply, for he was summoned to another part of the wall, which was endangered at that moment, and Philoctetes, too, was drawn back into the battle. And here is where I end my tale for today. But I'll be back with more tales. Many more tales. Until then, my friends, enjoy the journey.